Alright, welcome back everybody to some more Tempest Blue Flash, and today I'm in the MiG-29 flying out here. This footage actually is from way back in February, but I just had it laying around. Currently I'm in the MiG-29S, which for a long time was allowed on the server specifically for the reason of having R27ERs. Obviously, this slot costed points. It wasn't free, but as you'll see here, I mean, this is a pretty easy kill right off the bat. I had protested for a long time to get rid of the MiG-29S, or at least the S's ability to carry ERs, because, you know, right there, there was no competition. You'll see in another fight where I actually, or you'll see shortly, the other guy who does actually shoot me, and he shoots at me first, but it's a Hornet with Sparrows. He'll lose that fight. Even though you only got to carry 2 R27ERs on the MiG-29S, in my opinion, and in a lot of other people's opinions that you know, understand this game, those are 2 guaranteed kills in this setting. There is literally no competition to it. The AIM 7 Sparrow is too slow, and the Mirage 530, or the Mirage 530, the Super 530D does not have the range. You can outrange Super 530 with an R27ER. It also goes faster. The R27ER is a hypersonic missile when used in the correct envelope, i.e. high and fast, which is what you should be doing in a Russian aircraft. I know there's a lot of memes about mountain crawling and stuff like that, but you need to be flying high. You really do. Flying low is essentially just a death trap against anyone competent. So you see here, I foxed at about 30 kilometers. He returns a Sparrow. This is about, you know, 15-ish miles. At this altitude, it's a pretty dangerous Sparrow shot coming at me, but significantly more dangerous ER shot going in at him. So all I have to do is crank, perform a slice back here. And by the time I finish my slice back, he's dead. Like, you see, you hear the RWR cut out, and he's already dead. You can see him out there. Also, if you guys notice in the background, there was the Doom soundtrack. I forgot that I was listening to it while I was flying in that instance. Yeah, I was just chilling out, listening to the Doom soundtrack while I flew, because I just felt like a death machine, you know. But this time now we are in the MiG-29A, significantly less capable than the S itself. Theoretically faster because it doesn't have the extra weight or the hump on the back. And it is a very speedy jet. However, the flight characteristics are certainly a lot more wobbly than the regular S. There's a lot less allowable AOA and stuff like that. So it's a much harder aircraft, even though it's pretty much the same. That, and I was having a lot of trouble with the radar, like detecting stuff and picking them up. I know a lot of people complain about the Russian radars, and yes, they are not very good, right? But I think a lot of the complaints come from people misusing the radar. And not understanding actually how to use it. So, unlike NATO radars, which are, you know, pretty much first and foremost search radars, at least the more modern ones, the Russian radars are not technically search radars. You got to think of them more as terminal intercept radars, where the idea is that, you know, using a GCI, the GCI tells you where the target is from your current location, and then you just punch in the numbers, you know, the distance between you and the target. You just point your nose at the target, you punch in the distance between you and the target, and then you calculate the altitude difference between you and the target. And once you put all that in, the radar automatically does all the geometry for you and perfectly sets up, or puts the scan cone directly on the target. This engagement right here is against an F-18. He ends up not being able to shoot at me, so I shoot at him. This R27R is not going to get there. Too far. He turns cold too early. But yeah, I think that, like, once I figured out to just use the radar as a terminal intercept, just use EWR calls to track around, and then when I get close enough punch in all the numbers, you know, it became so easy. Like it was a walk in the park. You know, there was literally no work. I just had to, like, you know, do a little bit of subtraction, and then also make sure that the numbers lined up, and everything was easy. So here he tries turning in, so I switch to R73 and give it to him about 5 kilometers, and I'll be getting him here. There he goes, poof, behind me. So yeah, let's talk real quick about how to use the actual radar. So you'll see at the very bottom there's a big number that says 21 at this moment in time. That is the range, or the estimated range between you and the target, like where you want the cone to be looking. And this matters because it changes how much your radar actually elevates when you adjust the elevation. The number on the right, which you can see climbed from 1 to 2. That is the difference in altitude between you and the target in thousands of kilometers, right? So I'm at like 4,500 kilometers. If I want to look for a target, you know, 50 kilometers out, which I have it currently set to, and 700 kilometers above me, or 2,000 kilometers above me, then I just push it up, and the radar cone should be perfectly centered at that spot in the sky, and then all I have to do is wait to detect it. So it's very, very easy. It really is a super easy radar to use once you get the hang of it. Now here I'm going to have a little bit of difficulty. You can actually see just underneath, or like in the middle of my screen there, there's a little black dot. That is an F-16 that I will be trying to hunt down. And the MiG-29A has a worse radar. I mean, they have the same range performance. The S and the A have the same range performance. However, the A has degraded, like, tracking performance, and what I mean by that is you could detect a target, but you won't be able to lock it up until like way later, or at least it doesn't feel like that, or at least it feels like that, you know. So typically I just run around in high PRF, but I was using interleave and medium because this guy's kind of beaming me to right to left, so you know, high PRF wasn't going to cut it. Even at this close range. Like, I'll detect him in medium here shortly at like under 25 kilometers, and I won't be able to lock him up. But yeah. But that being said, let's get to the title of the video. At the very start of the video, I was very, very high in the atmosphere. I was like 11,000 kilometers, 11,000 meters or so in the atmosphere, and that's very important because I think I already mentioned it. I mentioned it earlier, actually. I'm just getting sidetracked because I'm doing live commentary, or post commentary. But here I finally was able to lock this guy up. Yeah, people like to fly really low. They like to use the electro-optical sensor. They like, especially in the flanker, they like to use data link and stuff like that to hide behind mountains and stuff like that. And it's just not the way to go because, frankly speaking, like, NATO jets, if you're carrying an R-27R, I fire this R-27R like into terrible parameters, but I think I forgot that this dude's an F-16, so I didn't want a Sparrow coming at me. People fly really low, and especially when you're in a setting like this where you have R-27Rs and not ERs, you know, an AIM-7 Sparrow will just kill you. Outside of 10 miles, outside of 20 kilometers, an AIM-7 Sparrow will out F-pull you. It will hit you first before your missile hits them. And that's very important in Fox 1 when it's the closest thing to a medieval joust you're going to get. You know, being as high as possible and as fast as possible is extremely important because it really is just you know, the higher and faster you are, the longer your stick is, and that's you need it to be the longest stick possible, right? So being low, slow, just hiding in the mountains, because like, your mountains don't matter when I am in an F-15 or something flying at 45,000 feet, right? Your mountains are essentially just little hills at that point, and I'm just going to shoot down at you, and then you'll be like, oh, but I fire an R-27T or an R-73, well then I just flare it, you know, I preemptively flare like any good player would. Speaking of flares, I get owned here. R-73, beautiful track, just gets owned by these flares, and now I'm merged, no missiles, with an F-16 that has AIM-9Ls on him, and It's been a while since I've done any dogfighting in the MiG-29A, and the MiG-29A is the hardest jet in the game. It is by far the hardest jet in the game to be good at dogfighting in, and that's not just me coping with sucking. That this comes from, like, you know, people who I look to as the best or some of the best players in the game, and especially at dogfighting. Like, they say that the MiG-29A is the hardest to fight with, and here, like, I mean, you know, this F-16 can just pull straight to 9Gs and hold it all day if he wants to. You know, the MiG-29A gets compression locked really, really hard, right? Like, I'm full backstick right here, about 1,000 kilometers, and I'm barely pulling like 6Gs, 7Gs maybe. Well, he fires an AIM-9L that I don't see, or I don't notice, and too late to flare, so I eat it and I die, but, you know, my bad. I should have held that R27R a little sooner, or a little later, and then I guess I shouldn't have lost the RNG roll on the R73. But yeah, I mean, I just wanted to show off that a little bit of that gameplay, talk a little bit about that, how you should really fly the MiG-29, the Russian jets in general. Because I understand that there's a big stigma with flying low, because you have the data link, you have the EO, so people are like, oh, I'll be sneaky, right? But F-16s have data link, F-18s have data link, the Strike Eagle will eventually get data link, right? And then if people are using their radars appropriately, doing proper scans, you know, using calls from the AWACS and stuff like that, they're just going to spot you. You pop up over the mountains for a moment, you get spotted, somebody sees that, and then they just fly, you know, 40, 50,000 feet in the air, and they just scan down into the mountains, and it's like, you know, what are you going to do at that point? You're going to fire an R27ER at me? It's like, no, I just fire an AIM-120C at you, and then I turn cold, and then you eat the 120C, because you know, you're in my NES, and I'm not in yours, right? You have to hold that ER, I don't have to hold the AIM-120C, right? You fire the ET, well, I just flare it, and then I just push you. You know what I mean? Or in the Fox, like a proper Fox 1 setting, you know, R27R, well, the AIM-7M has better legs than the R27R at, you know, outside of 10 nautical miles. So it's like, if I fire at 10 miles and I'm super high up and you're super low, well, I just crank your missile and then you die, right? Or you have to break lock and then I run you down and you die. So it's better off that you fly high. Like, I understand, again, there's a stigma, you feel really afraid about getting shot down up there, but trust me, like, start flying the MiG-29, the Su-27, J-11, whatever. Start flying it high. You should fly every fighter jet high, and I mean fighter jets that are specifically dedicated to air superiority combat, which is, you know, the MiG-29, Su-27, F-15s, right? Even the F-14. Proper air superiority fighters should be flown high. You need those missile kinematics, and you just need that speed and altitude and stuff like that. Right. Just that's my advice. That's just my advice. So yeah, I hope this video was entertaining. It was a pretty short one, I think. So yeah, I'm rambling a lot, but I just want to thank you guys all for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please let me know. Like the video, comment, all that stuff. If you aren't subscribed to the channel, please subscribe. It's very much appreciated. And yeah, thank you guys all so very much for watching. And have a nice day.